I said, Mary,
Oh, Mary, don't you weep.
Martha, don't you moan.
Oh, Martha, don't you mourn.
Listen, Mary,
Oh, Mary, don't you weep.
tell Martha not to moan.
Oh, Martha, don't you
This is a special tribute to gospel's beloved, the Caravans. No other group in the history of gospel music produced more stars than Albertina Walker's Caravans. Among those who passed through the Chicago-based ensemble's ranks during the 1950s and 60s were Bessie Griffin, James Cleveland, Cassietta George, Inez Andrews, Dorothy Norwood, Shirley Caesar and Lolita Holloway. All, including Walker herself, went on to become important, and in most cases, major, gospel artists, with the exception of future dance music diva Holloway. The Caravans emerged in 1952 as an offshoot of Chicago singer Robert Anderson's Gospel Caravan. The original Caravans consisted of vocalists Walker, Ora Lee Hopkins, Elise Yancey and Nellie Grace Daniels, with pianist Edward Robinson. Bessie Griffin, Iris Humble and pianist Charlotte Nelson replaced Hopkins, Daniels and Robinson in 1953. Cassietta George, Gloria Griffin, Jonaran Davis, Louise McDowell, Dorothy Norwood, Imogene Green and singing pianist James Cleveland were members between 1954 and 1956. Thirteen singles by the Caravans were issued by the States label in Chicago before they signed with Savoy Records in 1958. The Newark, New Jersey company also acquired rights to all the States recordings, issued and unissued, and released many songs on albums that appeared on the Savoy subsidiary label Gospel. The first newly recorded songs for Gospel were made in October 1958, with a lineup consisting of singers Walker, Inez Andrews, Shirley Caesar and Dolores Washington, with singing pianist Eddie Williams. By 1960, George Ann Davis had returned to the fold, and James Herndon was serving as pianist and singer. Among the group's big hits on Gospel were 1958's Mary Don't You Weep featuring Andrews and 1962's I Won't Be Back, also known as Sweeping Through the City, featuring Caesar.
Then we'll go, yeah, yeah, oh yeah, well my Captain Jesus gonna be good. Then we're gonna sit down on the bank, sit down on the river. Yes, I tell you that I won't be back, I won't be back, I won't be back no more.
My name is Albertina Walker, and I used to sing with Robert Anderson. And Robert was retiring, and this was his last recording when we was at the studio. And the record company asked me to record. And I didn't want to record by myself. I always wanted to sing with a group. And Mr. Allen and Mr. Simpkins, they were the proprietors of the record company. And the record company was United States. States was the gospel label, and United was the secular label. And I recorded. I asked him, Mr. Simpkins, Mr. Allen, could I record with the girls? And they said, if this is what you want to do, but we want you. I said, so don't make no difference. I said, I just want to sing with a group. I don't want to sing by myself. He said, well, what am I going to call you? What are we going to call you? I said, well, Elise Yancey lived in Gary. Nellie Grace Daniels lived in East Chicago, Indiana. Orly Hopkins Sanson lived in Chicago, and I lived on the other side of Chicago. So I said to him, I said, listen, I said, we're all from different places, so just call us the Caravans. And that's how the name of the Caravans was born, right there in the studio that night.
The Caravans, with Josephine Howard having replaced Davis, moved to VJ Records in Chicago in late 1962, before returning to the gospel label 3.5 years later. The band scored big on VJ in 1964, with Walk Around Heaven All Day, an outstandard gospel ballad that featured and was written by George. The second album under the group's new contract with Savoy included the Caesar-led hit Choose Ye This Day. By the end of 1966, however, Caesar had left the Caravans, and with Andrews and George already gone, the group's fortunes began to dwindle. They labored on for several more years, recording albums for gospel, then Hob, some featuring lead vocals by new members Lolita Holloway, Gwen Morgan, Julia Price and Willie James McFadder, before Walker finally disbanded the group in the early 70s. By 1972, the group was disbanded. In 1976, Caravans members Albertina Walker, Cassietta George, Josephine Howard, and Dolores Washington reunited to record an album for the Birthright Records label, with all new material titled Share, featuring special guest Isaiah Jones Jr. on piano. After 1976, the group members still did reunion concerts occasionally. Notable reunion concerts include a 1988 Stellar Awards performance with Albertina Walker, Inez Andrews, Shirley Caesar, Dolores Washington and Reverend James Cleveland, a 1994 reunion on a Dorothy Norwood album with Norwood, Albertina Walker, Dolores Washington, and Cassietta George, and a 2004 reunion for the Malaco Records Gospel Legends DVD, with Walker, Norwood, Andrews, Caesar, and Washington. In 1995, God saw fit to call home Cassietta George. In 1989, Bessie Griffin was called home. In 2020, Dolores Washington went home, and Albertina Walker passed away in 2010. Although the Caravans are no longer with us, they will forever be legends in gospel music.
Come on, Jesus.